Okay.
All right. The only thing is, when you put things on a table, you'll hear it. But
So just do it.
You do the corner thing.
Yeah, there you go.
Usually what I usually do. Yeah.
okay.
I just usually just slam it.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
The fuck
Yeah.
off.
yeah, we know.
a good thing you're the one editing it.
Yeah.
Define editing.
With singing Hampshire melody in my old Kentucky home. Kentucky home. The good old southern town.
Hey, everybody, welcome to another episode of Kentucky Commons Radio Hour. I am Michael Moeller, joined tonight by David Satterley,
Meow.
John Ronayne,
David's not a cat.
and we are at Brewgrass Homebrew Supply here in Louisville, Kentucky. Also with a special guest tonight, Kenny Coleman. You'll know him from Bourbon Pursuit and Pursuit Spirits. Kenny, thanks for coming on.
Hey, I'm glad to be here. Thanks again for the invitation.
Absolutely. If you are watching us on YouTube, thank you so much. If you're listening to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever, thank you so much. Don't leave the page, but I would also encourage you all to click a new tab or maybe go to the Bourbon Pursuit page and hit subscribe. Listen to them as well. They put out a lot of great content in the bourbon world and beyond.
Just
So,
subscribe everywhere.
yeah, just
Yeah.
subscribe.
Just do it everywhere.
Yeah, if you know somebody with a podcast, just help them out and subscribe.
It
Hit the follow button. You don't have to listen to it.
It costs
but-
you nothing.
But you
to
get
click
you
that
get
button.
we can count the download, right? That's all that matters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, a download is a play. I mean, who knows what's what? But we can use those impressions to add to the podcast experience. So, thank you for joining us tonight.
Very happy to be here.
We want to learn all about all of your endeavors because there's a lot going on there. I feel like there's always been kind of a lot going on. But we're going to open up the show with the same way that we always open up with a beer. And this is going to be a very we'll start off with the Island Pursuit. David, want to tell us a little bit about that?
Okay. We have.
Here we go. Yeah. Pay attention, kiddos. Here we go.
John's going to get a bottle opener. We have a classic black bottle labeled Island Pursuit. It's got a nice little barrel on the front, matte finished label. This is a bourbon barrel aged Imperial milk stout aged on toasted coconut and Tahitian vanilla beans. If you don't know, the Tahitian vanilla beans are significantly different from Madagascar or Ugandan. There's one other one too.
That's all, the label says all that? Crazy.
No, that's just
It's an encyclopedia.
yeah, sorry, my bad. But this is a beer brewed in collaboration with one Gallant Fox Brewing Company out of Louisville, Kentucky, and Bourbon Pursuit podcast.
Yep, that's us.
Yeah, at a couple days ago, I texted Roger Huff from Gallant Fox and told him that you were coming on, and he was like, "Hey, do you want a bottle?" And he dropped one off at my house and very promptly. Thank you, Roger. Appreciate the bottle donation.
Yeah, very cool. That's what we did this as a part of a beer collaboration because when you work in bourbon all the time, you end up with all these extra barrels, and you go, well, I don't want to just get rid of these things. I want to put them to work or do something.
So
So
this
we've-
is a rye barrel.
We've been doing a few different beer collaborations over the years, and this one was with a little bit extra there, a little spicy
It's a
on
hard
it.
pour.
Why do you pour like this?
It's important.
It's you got to get rid of that carby. And yeah, this one. So we have our own brand of Pursuit United. So we had these extra barrels left over, and I said, "Hey, let's find somebody we can do a beer collaboration with." And we started it early on. I can't remember actually how long it aged in the barrel, but our release party was for an event we throw every year called Pursuit Palooza. So getting back into kind of before we start talking about doing experiential things, like how do you get people more involved with something. And this is something we do every year for our Patreon community, the people that help support and grow the podcast all the time. And it was part of that release where we took 2 coach buses to Gallant Fox, and people drank and bought a bunch of beer, but it was a whole weekend of programming. So it's always a
It
good
was a
time.
palooza.
It is a palooza. That's what I keep. My wife's like, Kenny, everybody gets this a little too hammered. I go, well, it's a palooza.
It's a
As I say this like 10 times, every single time.
It's not brunch.
Yeah.
Well, you can have brunch too if you want.
Yes.
Otherwise, we're just going to go to Gallant Fox. No, it has to be a palooza.
It's a palooza.
It's a Poena, not a palooza. God.
Well, I think you guys said there was some coconut in this one, right?
Yep.
For those of you on YouTube and whatnot, there is coconut in this one.
Get some floaties.
I've got some floaties in mind, but yeah, that's the first thing I get off the nose. Huge little coconut bomb.
You know what? This is a very tropical experience,
Mhm.
and as such, I feel like we should be really living in the moment.
I don't know why you travel with
So I brought
tiki
some
flags, but
got some
I'm okay with that.
umbrellas.
Nice. I like
Can I have
it.
the green one?
Sure.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Very cool. After this is over, I'm just going to wear it in my ear.
Thanks. It matches my shirt.
Why do you have cocktail umbrellas?
Because I was heading out the door and I realized that we were about to be drinking the Island Pursuit.
There we go.
And so I just thought there's some synergy to that.
It's perfect.
Also, I've never put a little cocktail umbrella in a stout before.
Stout? Yeah, me neither. I think we're onto something here.
It's just going to start a trend. That's
I like
all
your,
it is.
I like your answer, but that didn't really answer why do you have cocktail umbrellas? Like,
LA Tiki Night.
Well, the coconut's really holding up in the flavor, too. It's rounded out, big, boozy, chocolatey, toffee, kind of Tootsie Roll, dark cherry, kind of fudgy chocolate kind of coming through now, too. Yeah, that's really nice.
Yeah.
Really good. It's holding up.
All credit goes to Roger on this one. I just said, listen, I know what kind of beers I like, which are like really heavy, boozy stouts. So it's up to you to go figure it out. And he did a fantastic job.
Yeah,
No,
I
that's
completely
fantastic.
agree.
So tell us a little bit about Bourbon Pursuit podcast, and then how you got kind of into the bourbon world in general.
Yeah, so I guess I'll talk about how I got into the bourbon world because I guess everybody has a coming of age tale, and that's mine. So bourbon for me started, I think, when a lot of people was with college. I mean, I joined a fraternity back then and ended up being one of the biggest bourbon drinking fraternities at the time. And I mean, I remember it was...
Can you give a shout out?
Yeah, Kappa Sig.
There we go.
Beta Nu. And it was one of those things back at University of Kentucky as well.
Preach.
And I remember as being an undergrad, giving $20 to, somebody and being like, oh yeah, give me a, case of Natty. And they came back and they were like, sorry boys, there's no Natty tonight. It's all Kentucky Tavern. And so there were just handles of Kentucky Tavern. And that
Kentucky Tavern was the one, too. I remember distinctly.
1.75 liter in a plastic bottle for, I think, like $15,
Yeah.
maybe 18 at the time. It was the best deal on campus, that's for sure. But after that, I mean, like I said, we drank bourbon and Coke all through college and whatnot. But even after college, a lot of people started to divert in different ways, getting into gin or wine or whatever, and beers and everything like that. But I kind of just stuck with bourbon now, just like kind of was my thing. And my splurge was 4 rows of small batch, by the way. Like,
Yeah, good stuff.
Even back then, I was still a little like close pocketed, and I was like, very old Barton, Kentucky Tavern, and every once in a while a 4 rows of small batch.
that is my single favorite like shelf bourbon.
for like $35, like you can't get better than that.
No.
It's solid.
And can I ask around what timeline that would have been when you were down there just kind of exploring in your early 20s?
So graduate of 2006 is when I
Okay.
graduated then. So
Okay.
yeah, so
I think I graduated UK in like 2008 or 9.
Okay. All right,
Yeah.
so we were there almost
Yeah.
around the same time. Yeah. So, like I said, I just started doing that. And then I never really got away from it. But there was somebody at my office that I guess the best way to say it is he was like my bourbon Sherpa, right? He he taught me everything that I wanted because he knew I was getting into it. And he goes, well, let me bring some stuff from home that you might like. And, he was like, you can just pay me for retail of whatever it is. And he brings like a 4 Roses limited edition small batch. We're talking like 2013. It's an old Rip Van Winkle squat bottle. I think it was like a Jefferson's 23 year. And he goes, he was like, what do you think? I was like, I don't know. Like, what do they cost? And he was like, I don't know, $100 each. And I go, holy shit. Like, there's no way I'm paying for this. And I was like, well, I'll go ahead and do it. Like, we'll go ahead and do that.
Yeah.
And that's kind of when the bug bit me like super bad. And I just started getting ham into bourbon. Started just chasing around, finding different things, just learning as much as I could. And this is 2013, 2014 timeframe when the advent of the Facebook bourbon groups is really on the rise. And that's when a lot of knowledge and information sharing really started happening. Plus you start learning about like, oh shit, these bottles are really worth something. So you start getting into it. But like I said, I started buying a ton of stuff, and then the podcast kind of started from that. But it wasn't my idea to start the podcast. It was actually my co-host, Ryan, my business partner. It was his idea because he owns a few different companies here in Louisville, notably is Go Green Lawn Solutions. So the people that go around and make sure your grass is clover-free and nice and green and stuff like that. So that job has him essentially in a car all the time, listening to podcasts. And when it's really hot outside or really cold outside, he's kind of bored. So the podcast ended up being a winter project for him. And he knew he wanted to do something, but his brother-in-law actually works for Heaven Hill. And he said, well, Ryan, you're from Bardstown capital, bourbon capital of the world. You should do a podcast on bourbon. but he didn't really know how to execute. I had a background, of course, in technology. We still have our day jobs and stuff like that. So I still work in tech. And he said, what do you think about this? And I said, well, let me figure out what's different. Like, how can we not be something that's already out there? So I listened to a few other podcasts, and, there's guys that were sitting there sniffing Elmer T. Lee around a microphone going like, oh, it smells like caramel and vanilla. And then we're going to be jackasses for the next hour, and you don't get anything out of it. And I said, like, there's got to be something that you can really take out of this. Like, where's the educational component? Like, where can you learn just something? And I kind of took a cue from my manager at the time. He runs a very successful tech podcast called The Cloudcast, where he invites startup CEOs to come on and tell their story. And I said, that's what's missing. Like, how do we let the people inside the bourbon industry connect with their fans, and how do we kind of like mend those or build the bridge, if you will? And that's been a very good recipe for success. And now that started in 2015. Now we're 2023. Like last year we did 2.2 million downloads of the podcast. We reach around 50,000 people every single month. So it's grown significantly beyond our wildest dreams. But as you all know, having a podcast, like there's a lot of work that goes into it. There's a lot of burnout that can follow along with it. And we've been able to climb over those mountains and kind of at least get to the next goalpost. Yeah. That's what you're always looking for. And you're like, okay, what's the next milestone we got to hit? And that's just the constant battle that you're always trying to go through.
How has the podcast changed over the years, whether in setup or, programming?
Oh, God. I mean, put it this way. It took about 100 episodes for us to find our stride. Like those first 100 were terrible.
We still got time.
You've been in your stride since day one, David Sadly.
I mean, I just remember because none of us had a background in communications, or we didn't do interviews. We just stumbled our way through it. And I just remember going back and, it's like we interviewed some of the brightest minds in the industry. Like Harlan Wheatley and Buffalo Trace was like one of our first episodes. And we asked dumb questions like, what's the greatest job about being a master distiller? Like there's so many better questions that you could ask somebody to learn about them. And yeah, so if I could go back, there's a lot of things I would change just in regards of just our interviewing skills. They've gotten so much better. And of course, yes, the podcast, when we started 2015, we didn't know what the hell we were doing. We started off with a Blue Yeti microphone and a laptop, and we'd all be huddled around it and just yelling into it. And so it just sounded like garbage.
I've been there before.
Yeah. And so it's like everything else. Like you learn, you make incremental steps in the equipment, and you just want to, and that's one thing that we've really changed a lot in the past few years, is that we really care about the listener experience and making sure that audio quality, the guests, everything has got to all come together. And there's times where we don't release podcasts because we're like, well, this is a really terrible interview and people just aren't going to get anything out of it. So hopefully we don't make a repeat today.
Nah, we release them all. We don't give a shit. We don't give a shit.
No, we have integrity.
Yeah, there you go.
Do you find yourself listening to other beverage podcasts? Or
every once in a while?
Use your own just enough?
No, I don't listen to. Here's the thing: is once we publish ours, I don't listen to it. I can't do that.
You said you do a lot of the editing too, right?
I do so here's the thing: is we release 3 episodes every single week. So we have a whole team that's kind of behind. When I say a whole team, it's me, my wife, and then the outsourcing company we use, right? So I edit everything for our Friday episodes. The outsourcing company does the Thursdays, and my wife does the Tuesdays. So we have a whole team behind it. But I don't listen to the podcast when they do go out, because I'm always thinking of what's the next thing I got to do? What's that next milestone? But I do listen to other podcasts every once in a while as I drinks one. But mostly it's I've got to. I am super, super competitive about who I am. It's just the nature of who I am. So I'll look at other podcasts and I'll say okay, who'd they get? What are they doing? What are they talking about? If there's an interesting guest, I'm like, how the hell did they get him? And I'll listen to that one. So it's nothing that I sit there and tune in and be like, oh, I gotta really learn and see what they're up to. No, I do it because I'm fiercely competitive and making sure that we keep our number one spot.
You're going for that Rogan spot?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. It's instead of I want Holyfield, it's I want Rogan.
So you have talked to a lot of different people over the years. Are there any memorable moments or bottles that have come across your way?
Bottles, yeah, there's always plenty of bottles. But, this is the question that I kind of love getting, because it's an easy one to somebody would say because like Jackie Zykin, she's a fantastic person to interview. Freddie Johnson, a fantastic person to interview. But there's the cool thing about what we've done is that I've always pitched the show to some people and saying like, we're here to capture a story. We're here to capture their story and present it to the world. And we've been able to do that now with a few guests that are no longer here with us. And one of the coolest things that we ever did, so there was an episode we had with Buddy Thompson. He was the chairman of Glenmore Distilleries, which oddly enough is where the home of Kentucky Tavern. And so it was a really kind of
another good old
yeah,
one of those.
But this was the Kentucky Tavern before it was sold off, and then whatever, went down the drain or whatnot. Which I think it was probably down the drain even when we were in college. But neither here nor there. But Buddy, it actually started off because I put my foot in my mouth. They released a bourbon, if you might remember a few years ago, it was like the oldest bourbon ever. It was like 40 years old, 45 years old. It was down at the Fraser. They had these boxes and people were lining up and they were flipping them like left and right. And then even people were trying them and they were going like, this is the worst bourbon I've ever had in my life. And we're on the podcast, and of course, part of me is like, good, they deserve it. What do you think a 45-year-old bourbon's gonna taste like? It's like chewing on a stick. And I was like, these people deserve it, so on and so forth. And sure enough, like 2 weeks later, I get an email from Buddy Thompson. He's like, I don't think you understand like what we're trying to do. Like, we're trying to raise money for veterans and do this. And I would love to have you come over and just record and kind of talk. And I was like, okay, cool. Anyway, went over there, recorded, talked to them, really got to know his story. Fantastic human being. Everything they were doing is great. Like I said, total foot in the mouth, just made me feel like a jackass. But it was one of these things that we put it out there and it was there for about 2 years. And then I get a message on my work Slack from my actual tech company. And somebody goes, are you Kenny Coleman from Bourbon Pursuit?
Nice.
I'm like, yeah. And she goes, well, I'm actually heading to Kentucky to go to my boyfriend's grandfather's funeral. And we found that your podcast is like the only living document of like what he did, like what he accomplished. Like nobody has, like everybody has stories, but there's nothing that comes from him talking about what he did. And they were like, the whole family's listened to it and they're just eating it up. And I looked at that and I'm like, looking at it now, it's like, I got goosebumps, right? Like it's one of those things, like you can't really put into words like what something like that means, because it's like, it touches just so many people you never thought it would do before.
And you enveloped a legacy that no one else did.
Yeah, it's a really cool feeling. Like to think that we started a bourbon podcast because it was just fun, and then all of a sudden, like we're touching lives. Like I don't know, you never thought that would happen.
And that goes into what was happening in technology around this. You said you started around 2014 or so.
Yeah.
Before that, I mean, maybe somebody would have written a 400-word article on someone like that, or maybe it would be a piece on like KET or some like niche channel or something. Or maybe somebody would write like a blurb in a book or whatnot. But the medium of podcast in particular seemed like the introduction of those long form interviews where you can actually sit down with somebody for, an hour or 2 hours or like however long you want to do it. And instead of having to get sound bites out, or instead of having to, maybe you have questions, maybe you don't, maybe you just talk, you get to actually let the person's personality and stuff like that shine through and get to know them a little bit. Like while you're doing the thing, were you guys conscious of that at that time, or were you just kind of going as you went about it off the seat of your pants, or did did both those things come at the same time?
Don't be wrong, he was an old guy.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I mean, you could tell, like here's the thing. I remember even drinking his whiskey, like he shared it with me and he goes, just to let you know, I can't taste anymore. And I tasted it and I was like, I just let you know, it still tastes like shit. So at least I got to say it to him, right?
You gotta stick by your guns.
Yeah, I mean, it really was. It tasted horrible, but it smelled amazing. It's like, you always hear, like, if I could wrap this up in a Yankee Candle, like that was one of those moments. It's like, put this in a Yankee Candle. But yeah, podcasting is it's brought a whole lot, like more than we could ever think. Especially from that. And, that's just one of those stories. And I also have other people that I know that have gotten into the industry because they go, I've learned everything about this. And I was going to a career in healthcare and I was bored. It was all during COVID. And they're like, I just hated my job. And I realized that I really wanted to be in the bourbon industry. And so he shifted paths and just went all in and now is, working in production at a local distillery here.
And was there a time that you guys decided, hey, like, or was there like a moment where you're like, this can actually turn into a business, not just something that we kind of do for fun? Was that something in your back of your mind from the beginning, or did you guys have a particular episode that you thought went real? Tell us about when you kind of realized.
I still don't think we've realized that it's going into a business. It's mostly one of those things. It's like we need to find an ROI for the amount of time that we're putting into this, which you all probably are very well aware of. It's like, it's fun at first. It's a fun hobby. And then you realize it truly is a job. And you go, well, we've got to make some money somehow. And that was kind of a kicking off point because it's not like people are knocking on your door to be like, I'd love to advertise on your show. Like that doesn't happen. And I'm a terrible salesperson, so I'm not going out and fishing for people. That's just not going to happen either. So the Patreon community really came out of that. That became something that was a big revenue driver that we knew that we could do something with the monthly recurring revenue and continue to keep putting out good quality content. But beyond that, like getting into making our own bourbon, that was never on the roadmap. It seems like it would be a solid twist and be like, oh yeah, let's come out with our own whiskey. But that was kind of a crazy circumstance on how that happened too.
We internally kind of joke that we'll never open a brewery, and I don't think any of us would say that we ever would. But
who knows?
But who knows?
But to that point, tell us a little bit about Pursuit Spirits and when that came to be.
Yeah, so like I said, it's one of those just random things. You just never know who's listening. And I think hopefully that's what happens with you all too.
It's the government.
Yeah, it is. Everybody's tapped. But you never know who's listening. And we talked about this brand on the show. It was called Doc 52s. It was this liquor store in Memphis. They were coming out with their own white label whiskey. And we were like, that's cool, but it's nothing new. Doctors' offices, pharmacy chains, grocery stores, they used to have their own private label whiskey back in the day. And we said, well, all right, cool. Didn't think anything of it. About 2 weeks later, get a phone call. And this guy goes, hey, I helped build that brand. What do you think about starting your own? We're like, okay, tell me more. I could go a lot longer, but now we're $5 million in debt with about $5 more million to go until we see the other side of it. So
hell yeah,
it's a crazy like wormhole that we've gotten ourselves into.
But I think, going back to just talking about turning it into a business, what you have is like, I would just say a community that you guys have built with your podcast group. And so launching a brand like this to me makes perfect sense because selling advertising and stuff like that is fun. But what's more fun when you have an audience is like being able to engage with the people who listen to your show and being able to kind of have that back and forth. It's hard to do that at scale when you have like 50,000 people a month that you want to communicate with. But having something like this is actually a really fun way to do that.
Yeah, it's more tangible.
Yeah.
And the thing is like it's fun. It's a fucking fun business to be in. I mean, getting to blend whiskey, getting to go and pick barrels, getting to come out with your own labels. And then, as you all know, it's a regulated substance. So there's also the government you get to deal with, which is not the fun part.
They're listening.
They're always listening.
So kind of talk us through how you went through, just getting that initial phone call to kind of figuring out how you wanted to build the brand and where you wanted to start.
Too many questions. I'd like to drink.
Okay, let's do that while we drink it. Yeah. See, David,
go for it.
Yeah. Do you have a first one we should crack?
Go. You can do the bourbon if that's the one that's over there, or this one's the bourbon right here. Yeah. So you can start with the bourbon there. Sure. And so it actually started doing our other label, which is called Pursuit Series, where we would just go and select single barrel bourbons. And that's because we felt really confident in doing that. We had done through the podcast, we had our own barrel picking club. And I mean, we felt pretty confident because we had already picked like 300 barrels at this point. We're like, all right, we can pick some pretty damn good single barrels.
300?
Ish. Yeah.
Holy cow.
Give or take 20 or 60 or something like that. Either direction.
That's a lot of days out at the distillery tasting. I'm sure your employer is like, what are you doing?
We don't like to get into that too much. All right, fun story with that real quick. So this was actually a prior manager. So I work for a left coast company, right? Very like, unlimited vacation and, your dog gets health insurance and all this other kind of stuff. And all they asked was, if you take a day off, just put it in the shared calendar so we know that you're not going to be there. And then, yes, we did a lot of barrel picks. And then my manager got...
This is why communism doesn't work, folks.
My manager got a message from his manager and he goes, so they think you're taking a little advantage of the system right now. I was like, got it. So I was like, we need a little more low key on this now. So that's great.
How do you just tell them I'm not? Okay.
I'll give you some bottles.
It's kind of what happened. I said, well, I'm still going to go. I'm just not going to put it in the calendar. But so we did a lot of these barrel picks and I said, we can choose some damn good barrels. And that's how it all got kicked off. And so we had about I don't know, 20, 30 odd different releases of just single barrels under our own private label. We felt really confident with it. But the problem is that single barrels are just not scalable. They're constantly, I mean, think about it. It's like, you guys know beer. It's like if you brew like one batch of beer, but you got to keep doing it over and over and over again. But when you deal unregulated with liquor and you want to go to distribution, it's like it's SKUs, it's label approvals, it's all this other kind of stuff. And it's just like, it's a pain in the ass. Plus, when you do a single barrel whiskey, you get about, on average, 180 bottles out of it. Your typical label run is around 250 labels. So there's just a lot of waste. And there's just that, and you got to clear lines. It's just very labor intensive. So he goes, you all need to come out with some sort of small batch product. So that's when we said, well, let's figure out what we can do. And at the time, we were kind of at the mercy of the source market. We didn't really know what was available other than what he had and some other brokers. And at the time, there was really just a bunch of MGP. For anybody that's out there that's listening, Midwest Grain Products. It's this factory in Indiana that makes like everything, fucking 70% of stuff on the shelf. But we knew, and by the way, it's really good whiskey.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with it. It's just, that's what everybody else is doing. We just didn't want to do it. It just felt boring. It felt like it's the exact playbook that works. You should go with it. But we're like, we've just done it all. We've had it. I don't want to do that. And so we said, well, what else is out there? And we got hooked into Bardstown Bourbon Company first because, so part of the podcast, I hate saying this, but we get like 2 to 3 bottles a week sent to us by other distilleries and whomever. Because
by jackasses that email you about a new
yeah,
bottle
there
release.
you go. Just like this guy over here. Yeah. And so they're like, I mean, don't get me wrong. Everybody wants some publicity, and that's perfectly fine.
And you're always very thankful for it, but it's just a lot.
We can go over later, like how I'm like just over flooding with bottles, and thankfully we have a warehouse now that all that stuff starts making its way towards now. But we got this bottle in the mail, and it was a chicken cock, and it was like a 3-year rye or something like that. We turn around like, this is actually pretty good, and it says distilled and bottled in Bardstown, Kentucky, and we're like, that has to be Bardstown Bourbon Company. Let's reach out to them. And thankfully, we had the podcast because they knew the reach that we could give them. And sort of like our whole thing is we're transparent to a fault. Like, we'll tell you everything we possibly can about the whiskey. And so they knew that with our platform, what we could do is really kind of bring them along with the journey. And the good thing is at this time, they'd already cut off contract distillation. Like, if you go to Bardstown right now and you ask, like, hey, can I go down 1,500 barrels? They'll go like, maybe in 5 years.
Yeah.
Like that's about how long the wait list is right now. So we got in there. They gave us, 7 or 8 different mash bills to play with and just taste. And we found one we really liked, which is in the one we're getting ready to try. And then from there, we said, okay, this is great, but at some point, Bardstown might become the new MGP, right? I mean, all these people they're cranking out a lot of stuff. So what's going to stop somebody from coming into Bardstown and grabbing the same exact mash bill, putting it into the bottle, maybe at a different proof, and we're no different than somebody else? Mm-hmm. So we said, well, we got to figure out what else is on there. But we didn't know what. We didn't know if we were going to try to find more Kentucky stuff from Bardstown or whatever it's going to be. But with the podcast, we knew that bourbon's a byproduct of the United States, right? It's not just Kentucky bourbon. And we've had a chance to try a ton of different stuff over the years. And our broker at the time actually gave us some 3-year Tennessee stuff. And he goes, hey, you guys are going to really like this. And we're like, we don't want any Dickel. No Dickel. Like, we've been down this path. And he goes, it's not Dickel. And I was like, all right, just send it. Like, let's try it. We came, it was probably about not as dark as this beer that we had before, but it was dark. And we're like, all right, well, what's going on here? We tried it. It was amazing. It had deep oak character, had a lot of good fruitiness. It was still kind of like one-dimensional, but we're like, where's this coming from? And it ended up being like, we can't say it. Like, they're like a contract outfit that's 30 miles south of Nashville in Columbia, Tennessee. And you can go look them up. It's pretty easy to find them because they make a lot of stuff for other people. But we looked at it and we said, okay, like, I think here's 2 components that we could work with. So we started blending Kentucky, Tennessee, and we're like, well, it's kind of the same thing as everybody else is doing. What else is out there? What can we play with? And so we were blending a lot of stuff together when we already had a relationship with another distillery based in New York, and that's Finger Lakes Distilling. Mm-hmm. And they make an amazing wheated bourbon. We've always said that if they were based here in Kentucky, they'd probably be bigger than Willet. Mm. They make an amazing wheated bourbon. It's like They go in at 100 proof. It's a Kelvin number 4. So by the time you get barrel proof, it's like 99 to 102, right? It's pretty impressive and it's really good. And we started layering that in, and we felt like we hit a home run. We have our own proprietary ratio and the types of barrels and some of the mash. Well, I'll tell you about all the mash bills. That's easy. It's just the only thing we don't talk about is like the ratios that go into it, because that's our IP.
That's
Our blend.
It's your
That's our
signature.
baby.
Yeah.
So cheers. This is
cheers.
This is Pursuit United, our small batch.
I already got into it a little bit. It's quite good.
Yeah, I'd say as soon as I opened up the bottle, actually, I got that like boom, little waft of aroma coming out. And you can just smell that it's going to be very robust and like full, I guess I would say, on the palate.
It's so approachable though.
Well, I'm glad you all say that. It's funny. We do all these whiskey fests, and we have a whole team of ambassadors that go out there and they taste test people inside of markets. When you go to Total Wine or whatever it is, you have the people handing out samples, and they always, there's a lot of people come back and go, "Whew, oh, that's hot. That's a hot one." I'm like,
I don't get hot at all.
oh,
No,
exactly.
No.
That's what.
To me, it's more in the vein of like a nice bottle of Knob Creek or something. It almost reminds me of. I don't know if you guys like that
I think
stuff.
it's more subtle than that.
I think it is.
Well,
too.
it just reminds me of the smoothness of something like that. It's not hot or sharp.
And the crazy thing is, it's 108 proof.
Wow.
Okay, I'm glad you said that.
Yeah.
yeah.
And that's what. So here's the funny. There's a funny story behind it. Is that when we were doing, Ryan and I, we were doing test blends back and forth all the time. And by the way, I get a hat off of him, because he is what we call our master blender. He did a 5-day course at Moonshine, so you can use the word master now.
Sure.
Nice.
But we did all kinds of test blends back and forth, and he always kicked my ass. So I said, listen, you take care of the blending, and I'll run spreadsheets and compliance and all the other non-fun stuff. So I taste test pretty much everything, but he gets
More fun when you have like bourbon to sample while you're doing it.
Yeah, pretty much. Anyway, we were doing all these test blends, and he gave me one. I was like, this is actually really good. And I was like, what's the proof? He was like, I don't know. I'm like,
All right, day 6 at Moonshine.
well, this is actually all pre-Moonshine, right?
Okay.
And so we're like, well, we're podcasters, we're poor, we don't have real proofing equipment. All the stuff that you can't really get stuff for high proof spirits on Amazon and think it's going to be like pretty close or accurate.
I lit this lighter and it's not catching. So
what do we got here?
I got a $15 proofing hydrometer for you guys right back there.
So Ryan calls up Drew Colesveen over at Willett and says like, hey, can we use your equipment? And he's like, yeah, come on through. I mean, because that stuff for high proof spirits is like about $30,000 is about on average, right? So anybody that has that between their couch cushions, let me know. I'd be happy to buy some proofing equipment off you. We go there, and it ended up being 108.26. We're like, this is fantastic. Like, it's not 101, and it's one better than 107. So that's kind of like what we've been rolling with.
I think we're all kind of high proof guys. I think we are all, if it's under 100 proof, it's a cocktail of mentality. Maybe not 100. Maybe that's just me, but
yeah,
I
If
appreciate
it's good, it's good. I don't know. So I will say this is the first time I've ever had any of your products. So thank you.
Okay.
Yeah,
There we
same
go.
here.
Thanks
Same
for-
here.
thanks
Same
for
here.
sharing. I will say I know that David actually tried some yesterday at an event that we were working.
Yeah, I did try that. I think the bottle's sitting over here.
It was the oak collection one, is what you said. It was our toasted version.
French
of it.
oak.
Oh, it's one closer towards you.
Okay, yeah. We were at an event at Pivot Brewing Company yesterday, and I trust those guys when I'm talking to them, and they're like, "Hey, what do you want?" And I'm like, "Whatever you're feeling right now. Like, what's good for you?" And they're like, "Well, do you want like bourbon? Do you want beer? Do you want cider?" And it's like, you have a lot of offerings, but I'll honestly just take whatever you're vibing with right now. And this was the first thing he pulled off the shelf. This French oak. That's a really fantastic product, and I did not know is that 108 as well.
Everything's 108.
See, I could not discern that even a little bit.
See,
But yeah,
see, my people, right? That's
Yeah.
what I'm talking about.
yeah, that was very good. I love seeing it on a shelf though, because to me, as someone who's tasted a lot of bourbons, not nearly as many as you, like new brands are kind of like shaky, and you're like, I don't know, but when someone I trust is like this, you need to have this, and I'm like, okay, we'll do it.
Yeah, we got to have those advocates, but it's really hard. Actually, it's been a very hard sell for us, because as being I'm preaching to a choir of people who are considering themselves whiskey enthusiasts and whiskey geeks. And when I say, listen, like, we've created a product and you're going to love it, And they go, I don't believe it. You're just a bunch of tater podcasters, like coming out with some 4 to 6 year old sourced whiskey.
Thanks for listening for the last 5 years.
Yeah, I know. It truly is. It's a hard sell. It's because our audience, when we go out with 108, they're like, well, why didn't you just make it barrel proof? We're going like, well, we thought it was more balanced this way. Like that's what we're trying to go for. And 108 is a little bit higher than the average person.
So shut up, Kenneth, if you're out there. You know who you are. Sorry.
Well, I don't know what those people are talking about. You're obviously doing something right. You just announced that you're opening up a brick and mortar on Whiskey Road, downtown Louisville.
Yeah, is that scary or what?
That's scary. Tell us a little bit more about it.
Yeah, so I'll tell you the kind of origin of how it happened. So we needed a warehouse, and that's mostly for getting around federal excise tax.
Sure.
So anybody that's in the whiskey industry, the way it goes is that since we bottle and we break bond at Bardstown Bourbon Company, we pay the big boy tax of $13.25 per proof gallon. If we have our own DSP,
Gallon
per proof gallon, right? So if we have our own DSP and we're under 100,000 proof gallons a year, which will be plenty underneath that, that goes down to like $2.85 per proof gallon.
There's a dog over there.
Oh, okay. Just making sure we're all on the same page. I was like, I didn't know this place was haunted. So we knew.
Anyway, with gallon proof.
Yeah, so we just needed to do that because I did our math and I said, listen, once we get to, and I put our 10-year roadmap out there and I was like, we can do 50,000 6-packs a year. Like that's what we can do. That's what we're putting down right now to be able to get to that. But I said, if we go down this path and continue bottling at Bardstown Bourbon Company, we'll be paying the federal government close to $900,000 a year in federal excise tax. And I was just like, we could buy like boats for all the homeless people in Louisville at this point if we wanted to just, take this back. But we just realized that we needed to do this to invest back into the company and at some point be able to go full time with this as well.
Yeah, but the federal government needs another F-35.
Yeah, I wonder why they're not buying like homeless boats.
Like how? How are they going to do that if you take their money away?
No.
And we know they're listening, so
I think they're going to find it no matter what. So I'm not too worried about that. Anyway, I was searching for these warehouses and ended up finding one that I thought I really liked on River Road, which now Bro Brothers is getting ready to take that one. Oh. But I found this one on River Road and I said, well, before I send a message to a realtor, I should probably see if I know anybody else that knows something about commercial real estate because everybody knows you make one call to a realtor and it's like,
oh yeah, I'm yours now.
Yeah, it's like we're going to go ahead and bug you for the next year and a half until you find something. So he called one of his buddies and he goes, hey, actually, we just closed on a property. You should come down and see it. I'm like, okay. So literally the next day we go and it's on Whiskey Row. We go downtown. And he brings me into the place. It's actually the old Boomer's Canteen that was right down there. It's this old restaurant that used to be there. And I walk through and I mean, the place it needs gutted from front to back, so on and so forth. And I'm going through and I'm like, man, this seems like a really expensive warehouse. And it took a minute for them to go, no, you got to see the bigger picture here. Like we're going to go, like you're going to have the first floor and the basement experiential bar. And we're going to have the top 3 floors, all Airbnbs. It's going to be a destination. And I go, I don't know. Like I just want to like sling some whiskey and like not deal with the general public every day. and it didn't take too long for us to actually, and really this is a shout out to the whiskey community. I mean, it's great. We talked to our friends at Imperial and Old Forester and Evan Williams, and just to get some sense of idea of tourism and people that come through there and understanding like what sort of sales numbers they see. And as soon as we started plugging that in, we go, okay, this makes sense. Right. I mean, because at this point, the way the new laws that are written is that we don't have to go through a distributor. We could sell direct to consumer. We make all this margin back. We have a home for ourselves, which is a way to, as we talked about earlier, bring experiences to people and have them be more connected with your brand. And it just felt like everything was coming together other than spending another $1 billion to fix it up. But other than that, it felt like everything was kind of coming together.
That's awesome, man. Now I'm really excited for y'all. That's going to be great.
Oh yeah, I mean there's going to be a long road to get there. We actually thought we are going to be open by March of next year in 24, but the city had other plans for that because it's not up to us. It's our landlords, and they're talking to the city with historical tax credits and figuring out what do you have to keep? What can you get rid of? Well, we think that this is not structurally sound. Well, we need you to make it structurally sound. So we were out of the picture for that one. So we just kind of have to sit there and wait.
That is a recurring theme among anyone that actually wants to invest money into Louisville.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna call that out right now. It's,
Government, if you're listening.
we literally have friends that are like, "Hey, we're gonna put this much money in it," and they're like, "Yeah, but
I mean, we've seen 4 or 5 big projects like that just fall apart because
Yeah.
it took
just completely fold because
years.
it's like I can't get. I have everything I need. The engine's running, and they're like, "Nah, but there's a traffic jam.
Yeah.
You're just
Yeah.
gonna wait for a long time." So city, get it together, please.
Yeah.
That's what it was like. Let's go and join this whole bourbon tourism thing that's happening. And for us, I mean, we put it in the press release. It's like for years we've been telling people like, here's the best places to go in Louisville. Like here's some cool breweries. Here's some restaurants. Here's the distilleries that are worth visiting that you're not gonna get the regular old 51% corn tour. And we're like, shit, we could do this. Like we can make something that we know that we would like. But we knew that we're not going to be the first stop on the Bourbon Trail because, I mean, we're podcasters. Nobody knows who the hell we are anyway. But once people start learning about us and they're like, okay, like I've done the Bourbon Trail. I've done all these other things where I get the same regurgitated tour. Let's find out what's next. And we kind of want to be there to kind of create that 102 level knowledge, which is kind of what we've been preaching on the podcast from day one. Like, how do we create this educational level where it's just not, again, we're just not sitting there doing top 10 lists and competing and going like, oh, this is better than Blanton's. Like, we don't want to get into that. Like, let's figure out how we can find something that is more educational to the end consumer.
So now on to our next segment, top 10 with John Renane.
Top 10 beers.
There'll be 15. Just for the record.
I was going to say top 10 pieces of government red tape we can just rip off right now.
So the French oak is very good. I'm glad I'm not spilling it on myself, as somebody might have done last night.
That wasn't me.
Oh, no, of course
Everybody just looked over at you like guilty party.
No, I literally didn't touch the bottle. It just fell in my direction. I was like,
Yeah,
cool,
that
I don't have
happens.
to shower today. I just rubbed it under my armpits, and I was like, I'm
Smelled
good.
like Jackie's eye can immediately.
Yeah, maybe we have some wobbly bottles. We're working on fixing that one too.
No, the bottles are great. It's user error.
Do you I'm sorry, one quick question. Is this bottle specific to you all?
So no,
Okay.
there is. If you see like Widow Jane and a few other ones out there,
Okay.
it's very similar to that one.
I don't recognize it. That's
Okay.
why I asked.
So yes, there was an off-the-shelf version, and I'm going to try to tap dance around this so I don't get in too much trouble. But our glass was a casualty of the shortage during COVID, right? So long story short, we are going to bottle in about 6 months or so. I ended up talking to my friend Joe Beatrice over at Barrel Bourbon, and he goes, Kenny, this glass shortage thing it's going to be real. Like, you need to start ordering something. I'm like, I'm sure it'll be fine. Like, whatever. He's like, no, you should do it. And I was like, I'll worry about it later. And at the time we were ordering just, probably 10, 12 pallets or something like that, which is about 1,000 bottles on each pallet. As that started getting closer, we started getting the forecast data. And we're like, okay, we need about a container's worth. So we talked to our glass manufacturer and we're like, we need to get about a container. And they're like, oh, sure, we'll have that to you like no time. We'll probably get it to you in February. Like, okay, December rolls around. Things are looking much more grim in regards of like glass situation. And I go, are we still good for February? And you're like, actually, it's looking like May now. We're bottling in June. We need to make sure this is going to happen. And we're like, okay. And then about another few weeks later goes by and I'm like, all right, I got to have a serious conversation. Like, are we going to have this glass? And this is when Russia invades Ukraine.
There we go.
Come to find out, our bottle's being manufactured in Ukraine.
Oh.
And I go, well, we're definitely not getting it by June, so it's time to scramble. It ended up just going down the rabbit hole of Google and looking for our bottle, trying to find something. Ended up finding something pretty similar on AliExpress or Alibaba. And I go, well, it's worth a shot to talk to somebody. Ended up talking to a manufacturer somewhere. I don't know. You can look on AliExpress and there's just like all this crap. And you're like, whatever. Send a message off. And this bottle comes back. It looks pretty similar to this one, but it has Stillhead Distillery all
Nice.
in, but it's like embossed on it and stuff. And I was like, well, let me go ahead and do some Google. Ended up finding Stillhead Distillery. It's just based out of somewhere in Canada. I can't remember exactly where it was. It sent them a message. And he goes, yeah, that's our glass. He goes, but that's not our manufacturer. So he goes, well, apparently in China, just everybody
Fell off a truck.
Yeah, in China, just everybody rips off everybody. And he goes, but here, this is who we use. And so then I go and talk to them. I was like, hey, can you make this bottle without their logo on it? They're like, sure, got it. And I was like, can you? And usually you want to get a sample or whatever. But the guy that was in Canada, I asked him, I was like, can you send me some bottle samples just so he's like, yeah, sure, not a problem. I'll send you some samples and some of our whiskey. And I was like, all right, cool.
Nice.
Yeah.
Shout out.
Yeah, he's been a good friend ever since then. But now that, like I said, we got the bottle, we're like, listen, just run it and we'll get it when it gets here. And that ended up being the most expensive container of glass we've ever paid for. Because I mean, it was freight alone was like $23,000.
Yeah.
I mean, nowadays I think it's down to like $8,000. Like today, it dropped a ton. But we end up getting the glass. Now we're going back. So our next releases that we're going to be bottling next month all are pretty similar to this, but we fixed the wobble. Plus, it actually has Pursuit debossed in the lip. So it's actually, the glass is pushed into it, which is something you don't see anywhere. So we're making small adjustments to it, but we're still trying to figure out, and we can talk offline of like what works, what doesn't work, what do you think we do need to change? Because we went into this pretty naively on design. We didn't really know what the hell we were doing. We kind of leaned on some other people, and now we're going back thinking like, do we need to change this? Now that we know how all this works, like, can we get a custom mold? Should we go that route? And I don't know, maybe we will.
It's funny how, little things like that people don't even think about. I mean, I assume that you got your cork and cap somewhere else too, and all the details that went into that. It's hard to do.
Oh, that just the boxes it goes in. People have no idea just to get shippers. Like, there's just so much crap that you didn't even think about.
It makes you appreciate that global supply chain too, and how fragile it really is. If one goddamned cargo ship gets stuck sideways in the Suez Canal, the entire world falls apart for like 2 months, which happened like twice or like 1.5 times in the past during COVID. So it's like, okay, great. And then during like global conflicts and stuff, it's like, but if you're listening, government, made in America, baby, let's go.
We learned the hard way, but I mean, that's the fun part, right? I mean, you own a business, you're figuring out, you're failing forward. And hopefully
it's the fun part until your shit doesn't show up when you really need it.
True.
But it's fun to learn those things.
Be like, well, hopefully we can pay the rent next month.
Well, I'm really happy about what you're doing. Really excited about the Spot and Whiskey Row. Can I give you some advice though?
Yes, please.
Because you'll be in downtown Louisville. People are going to be visiting the bar, going to be drinking some good stuff. They're going to want some Underberg. Louisville loves Underberg.
Yeah,
Louisville
Louisville does.
You're familiar with the product?
Yes, I am.
Well, let me just tell you, while we're about to drink some right here, and John, get those caps ready, we're about to enjoy a moment of rejuvenation of Underberg. The herbal digestif crafted with herbs from over 40 countries. Over 40 countries.
It's a lot of countries.
It's 41.
Yeah. For 175 years, people have unwrapped these tiny bottles as we're doing right now after a good meal or, a couple beers, maybe some whiskeys, experiencing not just its complex character, but the delightful feeling of well-being. That's what I get every time at least.
Same here.
Founded by Hubert Underberg in 1846, this aromatic drink has been enjoyed by those seeking a pleasant sensation after indulgence. Made with care and matured in Slovakian oak, it's barrel-aged. Did you know Underberg was barrel-aged?
No, but now I like it even more.
Yes, exactly. So, and it's Slovakian oak, so that's the good stuff right there. Herbal blend, tradition handed down through 5 generations of excellence. And I will say, we're in August now. You can help us celebrate Underberg's 163rd anniversary coming up on August 29th and embrace the feeling of comfort and relaxation in a bottle.
Absolutely. I'm going to do that.
All in.
Yeah.
As an aside, I just found out the bar down the street from my house, Merriweather.
Shout out Merriweather.
They are now the #1 Underberg account in Kentucky, so shout out to Merriweather as well.
I don't think they pulled our numbers. That's all I'm saying.
No, probably not. So we'll enjoy these right now, and cheers to Underberg.
Cheers, guys.
Yeah,
Cheers,
how about
Underberg.
it? Cheers, fellas.
Cheers to you all.
I haven't done one of these in a while.
I'm so happy.
I got a really good glug on that one in my ears. I don't know if you guys could hear that. Probably not.
I did.
I
hear-
got really good Slovakian oak out of that.
That's extra with the
Ah.
Slovakian oak.
Yeah.
I can just taste the barrel agedness in there, can't you?
Well, you also brought us another gift here today. In addition to all the fine whiskeys, we also got some Bottle Logic.
Yeah, it's like I was saying, I've got some beers at home. You all open it. I don't know what I'm doing here.
I'll pour.
I was like, I've got some bottles at home, and I've loved barrel aged stouts. Like beyond next to bourbon. That's what people always say. Like, what do you drink at home? I was like, I got bourbon, barrel aged beers, and water. That's about as far as I don't drink coffee. I don't drink soda. Very rarely do I drink juice unless it's already mixed with something. But I love my barrel aged stouts. I love coffee stouts. I love add all the Madagascar vanilla or whatever the Tahitian. You add the beans and the coconut. I'm all in. Which is kind of funny because it's like you start adding additives to bourbon. I'm like, blasphemy.
I agree.
That was the premise of beer for a very long time, and then everyone was like, "Fuck, this is delicious. we'll just take it." Like,
If you want to do that with bourbon, just make a cocktail. Like that's
but you can't overdo it. This fundamental observation from Bottle Logic Brewing out in California. This is one of the ones that got it right, like on their first try. So this is 2019, I think, like batch 5. But this was one of the beers that changed a lot of the so if I was gonna flip this bottle of whiskey, I would just turn it upside down. But if I'm gonna flip this bottle of beer, I'm probably gonna make like a fair amount of money on it.
Yeah.
This is a classic beer nerds beer. I'm very glad that you brought it to share with us.
Well, I know it's Louisville Ale Trail and stuff like that, but I knew that you were like my people, and it's because I don't have friends that like to drink a bunch of barrel-aged stouts with a high proof on it. So I was just like, well, I'm not going to drink it myself. Let's give it to some people that can appreciate it.
That was the other part is Bottle Logic leaned into the high proof barrel aging program, and these series as they started coming out with were really pushing the boundaries around the same time that you all got into the podcast deal. But these all come out at like a 13, 14. They did one, geez, I'm going to get flamed for forgetting it. But it was essentially like 18% where they just like heavy proofed it back through the barrels. That was a very special bottle that came in a very special package that sold for more than shelf bourbon sells for. And you're like, why?
Well, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
I know. It's so weird because like I feel like bourbon's such a good deal at the end of the day. It's like our bottles are 65 and 75 or
very
if I want to be a little more like $64.99 and $74.99.
They last forever too.
They do. If you don't open them, they last forever. If you do open them, you got a couple years, right? A beer, a bottle of wine, like you've got a sit down there, and
It's
that's
a
about it.
one-time deal. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I will say during a COVID shutdown, I got myself into wine, and I was like, I need to learn. This is a blind spot for me. I don't know what's going on.
wine got itself into Muller. Is what it sounds like.
Yeah, exactly. And then I was just like going to the Breeze wine bar or wine shop at the time in Logan Street Market, grabbing a few bottles here and there, and I had this terrible notion in my head that like, oh well, I mean, this is basically like a big bomber bottle of beer, and like
Yeah,
I can't let it like go to waste.
Oh no! If you open a bottle of wine, you're finished.
Yeah, I'm finishing it.
Yeah.
So I would have for a lot of nights during the COVID shutdown, just a bottle of wine. By
I've seen that
myself
on the
every
internet.
night.
They say one bottle of red wine a day is actually good for you. It's,
Yeah,
oh, wait,
something
there's
like
a
that.
glass. No, It's antioxidants.
Well, so that's the thing. Like when I'd finish it, I was like, how do people do this? Like, I feel so weird. And it's a different kind of drunk too. Like wine is like a weird, like body drunk, head
It's a-
drunk.
it's
I
a
don't
head
know.
drunk.
it's
Yeah,
different for
You
sure.
just sat there with like a blanket, watched rom-coms, like
That's exactly what I did. Yeah.
with your red teeth.
So I will say, as we're
Your
talking
wine
about
streakers.
as we're talking about taste preferences, this is not a style that I usually gravitate towards. It's fine. I appreciate it.
It's fun to share with
It's
friends.
fun to
is
share
like
with
what
friends.
it's for. Yeah,
This is fantastic.
yeah, it's great. It's really
Like,
holding up.
This is great.
It's not over vanilla though.
Mm-mm.
That's what I kind of just like when you talk about it. I was hoping it was like you weren't gonna church it up, and I was like, God, it just fell flat. Like, but it's pretty good. It's not over vanillaed.
No, and it's 4 years old.
Yeah, it's true.
Like so, like
My bad.
even sitting in but I mean that's a testament to it because if it can sit in a bottle for that long, like you said, bourbon experience is like an open and close, and you can come back to that and have the same experiences and moments and share those with friends. You open this, that's it. So like the fact that like a lot of people like cellar their stuff for entirely too long. If it's a good product, if it's a product that's meant for that, this is what it tastes like.
And I'm coming off of bourbon here, but the nice thing about beers like this over like some of the big stouts that I'm not a huge fan of either too, it's sweet, but it's not like cloying. It's not like that sits on the back of your tongue and it's like you have like toffee stuck back there or something. It's still fairly clean on the back of your tongue, and it registers on those bitter taste buds as well, which kind of helps round it out. I really like that. That's fantastic.
We were saying earlier about how we like to, how you like to have an educational component to everything that you do. And to that point, we have a little game for you tonight.
Oh, shit.
If you will indulge us.
Now you're going to test my knowledge and be like, oh, no.
We should have made a theme song for this. That we made a promise to ourselves that we'd make theme songs for segments.
I don't remember that, but okay.
I think you made a promise to you,
It
John.
was like, can you play the...
If you like to pursue bourbon and you want to learn new things, come on, play our little game.
No, this is not Uncle Baby Billy's Bible Bunkers.
Okay.
Trivial Bourbon Pursuits
Oh,
with David
man.
Satterley.
We are going to test my knowledge here, aren't we? Look at this. This is actually really, this is
High
fancy.
production value. I'm telling you.
I'm impressed.
Let's go here.
Well, I'm trying to go for the camera, David.
Trivial Bourbon Pursuit is what we're playing tonight. We have six categories.
I'll be Vanna. So
We have history, process, what's in a name, semantics, mix it up, and mash. David, take it away. Or John, I don't know.
If you've ever played Trivial Pursuit, you know that the name of the game is to fill your little pie wheel
the pie.
with one of each color.
Yep.
So David will give you the opportunity to choose categories. They're in order and degree of difficulty. You can choose wherever you want. But
They're
start
a
at the
little
top,
mixed.
work your way
They're a
down.
little mixed.
Okay.
And take it away.
Pick a category. We're gonna run with this.
Okay. Well, I guess we'll go with what's in a name. I feel confident, so I'll start with 2.
Okay. Name a bourbon that shares a name with a famous American politician.
A famous American politician. Well, I mean, the Kentucky Senator stuff came out very recently, but the actual name, was it Elijah Craig?
Ding, ding, ding,
Okay, there
Yeah.
it is.
All
All
right.
right.
Also acceptable. I think, isn't there a Henry Clay is a bourbon as well, isn't it?
Well, Henry Clay was, but it's not like in current production.
Elijah Craig is the
there was
answer.
there was definitely a Henry Clay bourbon back in the day, though.
I just wasn't sure whether that would have been an answer, but you got the correct one.
Okay.
But I would have given it to you with Henry Clay too.
All right. So you've already nailed the what's in a name category. Next.
Okay. Let's see. I'm gonna take probably my least confident one, which is history, and I'll do a 1.
I think 1 is the hardest.
Oh, is it? Well,
you already said it.
it's too late. It's too late. Can't go back now.
Okay. History number 1. American Marvin C. Stone patented the modern drinking straw, 8.5 inches long, made of paper in 1888 to address the shortcomings of the commonly used rye grass straws. He came upon the idea while drinking a bourbon cocktail in Washington, D.C. What was the cocktail?
Oh, if it's a rye-based cocktail,
They're all bourbon themed.
it's all bourbon team, but it's not a rye-based cocktail.
It was just a cocktail made with bourbon
Oh, well, I mean, old fashioned seems too
in
ridiculous.
88.
1888. Oh gosh. Because there's no way that the old fashioned was invented by that point. And then hot toddy. Like I'm not too sure.
That's a good guess. Not correct.
I was
though.
like, because I was going to go with like the Sazerac because that made more sense back then. But
It's a mint julep.
is it a mint julep?
It's a mint julep.
They loved that shit in the 1880s. And the mint julep
Yeah,
was
you're probably
invented because
right.
all the bourbon was god awful back then. Where most of the bourbon was god awful. So they would do those like strong cocktails to like mask the taste or whatever.
Mince it with a bunch of sugar and all this other kind of stuff to mask it.
They're
It
still
makes
not
sense.
good. So it
That
doesn't
makes
matter.
All right, process. We'll go 3
Process 3.
because it's all science.
This one you got this.
Okay.
Process 3. What is the difference between bourbon and Tennessee whiskey?
Oh, well, we can go
Yeah.
quite a long ways on this one.
Tennessee whiskey sucks.
Well,
I said it, not him.
It's all going to be about that charcoal filtration,
are.
right? The Lincoln County process, if you
Nailed it.
will.
Nailed it.
Yes. That one felt like a gimme. I appreciate that one.
Number 3s are supposed to be the easiest.
Oh, they are?
Yeah,
Okay.
Is that
Well,
what we said?
No, that's not what he said. It just
Number
You
1
get-
is the
you
hardest.
figure
number one's the hardest. Okay, so then let's try a hard one. We'll do
Production value.
mix it up. Mix it up. Number 1. I'm trying to test myself. It's like because if I just take easy ones, then I feel like I'm a cop out.
what cocktail mixes 2 ounces bourbon with 2 teaspoons lemon and 2 teaspoons simple syrup? Like you said, one is the hardest.
Let's see. You said bourbon, lemon, and simple syrup.
Yep.
I mean, because that is not a hot toddy. That is not a gold rush, because that would require some honey as well. It's definitely not a lemon drop unless it's a bourbon lemon drop.
You're thinking the right way.
I was about to say I might be stumped on this one too. I was like, I've never done such a simple cocktail of that. Or maybe am I overthinking?
I think if you just guessed instead of giving up, you'd have a 50-50 shot. If you just think about the genre of just citrus juice and brown liquor.
It's not a brown derby. I was going there.
I love a brown derby.
What if
Which-
instead of
That's great.
bourbon, we just said whiskey? What would you guess?
Whiskey, lemon. What now? It was whiskey, lemon, and
Simple.
simple. I don't know. I'm terrible. You need Jackie on here, because Jackie will
She'd nail
probably
it.
know this.
Bourbon sour.
Bourbon's
The classic bourbon
geez,
sour.
A bourbon sour. But you didn't say like with an egg white. I like mine with egg whites.
I do. I'm on the egg white train too.
I think these are all kind of like based early American too, or at least that one was. Sure.
No, okay. I was about to say. By the way, yes, team egg white all the way.
Yeah.
Semantics 2.
Semantics.
I need a confidence booster.
What is the branch in a bourbon and branch?
Oh fuck, man! I don't know. What are these questions?
What is
Well,
the,
these are
if somebody
semantics.
says the term to you, bourbon and branch, what does the branch? What does branch mean? Why are they saying that?
Well, there is a speakeasy in San Francisco that is called Bourbon and Branch. It's a very good place, and they have a library that you go into that is something like that. But I've never. I don't know. I don't think I know this one.
I didn't really know either, and I still didn't exactly figure out like the like etymology of the word or whatever. But it basically just means the distillery and then the water source. So the branch is the water source.
Oh gosh,
The more you know.
I've never heard that before. in my
Yeah, I was
life.
about to say.
didn't know, I'd heard
So,
the- I'd
give me
heard the
3 in
term.
semantics. Let's
Earlier
we
when
need
he
to come
gave
back.
you the like the ranking, that's not the ranking. So I don't know why he said that. So
It's all
There's no
random here.
ranking.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. Semantics 3. There are 5 trademark cocktails in the United States. Name 2.
Old fashioned Manhattan. I mean, is it that easy?
Nope.
Nope. Wait,
You
just
said one a while ago.
what? Hot toddy, lemon drop.
It's more about the brands that own the trademark, and they can technically only sell them legally, quote unquote, if they include those brands.
If they sell those, if they legally, so are we back to the mint? Okay, what's the question again? It was the 5 cocktails,
5 trademark cocktails in the United
Trademarked.
States.
trademark cocktails.
Yeah.
You said one earlier when you were thinking through the different like brand names for the
You're thinking
cocktail.
through the lemon juice thing.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, so it can't be the Gold Rush, the Hot Toddy, the Lemon Drop, the Brown Derby. Cocktails are not my strong suit.
Well,
y'all.
I will say I think there's only
We also had a phone a friend in here, didn't we?
there were only two of the cocktails that include whiskey. The others do not.
Oh gosh.
Okay.
Well, then I'm gonna be.
I also don't know the answer, so I would
So you
phone
said one
Michael.
earlier.
Yeah.
That
I
we
don't
could do
know.
a 50-50, and I could tell you one of the ones that you said earlier, and then you only have to guess one.
There you
Well,
go.
if you tell me,
said,
if you tell me
uh,
2 of them I said earlier, I'm probably gonna guess the wrong
You said
one.
Sazerac earlier. That is one of them.
Oh, okay. Well, I feel really good about that one.
The other one you might be more familiar with if you are familiar with the opening sentences of a lot of like horror stories.
What?
Wow.
Oh, okay, I got you.
I feel like you guys are on the same page.
Or
over
if you
here.
go to the
I
doctor
don't
to
know
get
the answers.
prescribed a lot of
you just went, oh yeah,
Oxycontin pills for your ailments.
Or
Oh,
if you're in New Orleans
oh,
and you get a
gosh.
big old green drink.
oh God.
Or if you're in
I just-
Colorado Springs,
it's on the tip of my
and
tongue.
you want a margarita but with whiskey.
It was
or-
a night.
Okay, we have to.
Yeah, let's just
yeah,
move
yeah.
I was like, I'm just done with this stuff.
So the other options would have been dark and stormy,
Okay.
painkiller, hand
Painkiller,
grenade,
that's what I was thinking
and
of.
whiskey tirta.
And
Whiskey
there's-
Rita.
Whiskerita.
Oh, who wrote that? Me.
Okay, I've had a hand grenade on Bourbon Street before. It's
terrible.
Yeah, it's a bad idea. Just a sugar bomb. All right, mash. We'll go 2. Just-
Two?
yeah.
Okay.
Put me out of my misery here.
You're doing quite well.
You're doing fine.
Please tell me it's nothing but cocktails.
No, it's not cocktails. What Kentucky bourbon uniquely features 16% soft red winter wheat? Red being the keyword.
Okay, man, you guys are really testing me here. So I'm going through and I'm thinking of all the majors that will have all this sort of stuff.
It's a big one.
It's a big one.
Well, then it's Maker's Mark.
Yep.
Okay.
Ding, 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 ding.
All right.
Very nice.
Yeah.
There you go.
I was like, what major has? I was like, it can't be Weller because they don't disclose what kind of wheat they use. So it had to be that.
Yep.
Okay.
We've got one left on semantics. We got mix it up, and we have history.
Let's do history. Dealer's choice.
Let's do 2. What is the oldest continually operating distillery in Kentucky?
I think this Buffalo Trace, is it
According
not?
to them, I should have put on there, but yeah.
Yeah, according to them.
Yeah.
According to them, it is. So, all right, there we go. I feel really good about that
You're
one.
crushing the 2s. You are crushing the 2s.
Which is weird because I was like, I don't know. I'm bad at history. And you always throw these cocktail things. It was like, well, I was never a bartender. Like, I have no idea. Like, I didn't study this stuff.
I just drink the bourbon. I don't want to mix
I
it.
was like, I look at the menu. I go, that looks delicious.
I'll go mix it up 2 just for you.
Okay, sounds good.
I wrote these. In a warm glass, these ingredients come together to produce a hot toddy.
Okay, then where we go? Whiskey, lemon, and honey. Right there
Yep.
we go.
Yeah.
See, all right. I feel
Okay.
confident. Right?
You got 5 out of 6, but you only have 1 left on the semantics, so
all right.
it's all down to this.
Okay, then let's do it.
All right. God, this is so long.
These are the ones that I wrote, I think.
Despite its roots in early American history, bourbon's name originated much earlier from the House of Bourbon, which was an extremely powerful family in Europe from the 15 to 1800s, and placed several kings on which European country's throne.
Well, it'd be France. Yeah.
We have a winner of Trivial Bourbon Pursuits, ladies and gentlemen.
I'm so glad you pulled
Thanks
that
for
out.
playing
I'm like,
this awesome
I'm sweating
game.
over here. I'm like, I'm gonna fail. Like, people are gonna find I'm a fraud.
No, you did incredibly well. The only ones you missed were obscure, like 18th century cocktails, like about actual bourbon. You nailed it.
Yeah.
Oh,
No, feel good about that. That was
Yeah.
fun. I didn't know most of those, so it's fine.
Yes. Oh, okay. Like I said, I feel a little relieved now. I feel like I'm out of the hot seat.
Yeah, we can go back to drinking now.
Yeah, let's
Yeah.
do that.
Or we can do the rest of the questions. I love trivia
No,
games.
let's not do
I
that.
love trivia.
You graced us with a lot of different liquids tonight, so we really appreciate that. I'm not
sure.
sure if you saw my email earlier, but I also asked for a second personal item.
Yeah,
if
so
you
it's in that
happen to
bag
have.
over there. Grab it and just to kind of talk about some random stuff.
Yeah, here you go.
So I'll pull it out
Oh,
and you'll
Target.
be.
I recognize that.
Actually, yes, this is my wife's idea because she was like, "Well, you just can't bring it in." I was like, "Yeah, you're right. I need to probably hide it with something." So you might be thinking like,
Oh, that's cool.
"Is Kenny a Shakespearean poet?"
Mm-hmm.
I'm not. Actually, I brought some other stuff. So I have some Halloween candy here for you all too.
Ooh,
okay.
you're a spooky boy. Is
and-
that what we're hearing?
Well,
It was a dark and stormy night.
Yeah,
there we go. So here's the and by the way, feel free to pair your
mean,
Halloween
let's go.
candy with whatever it
Wow.
is.
I feel like if I
What's
take the
there for
Kit
'em.
Kat, what do you guys like?
Just eat it.
Go for it.
Yeah.
So here's the thing, my personality, when I find something, I turn it to 11. Like I go all in with it. And since you all are from here in Louisville, and if you're listening to this podcast, probably Louisville Ale Trail, there is a street that is known for Halloween in the city of Louisville, which is called
Hillcrest.
Hillcrest.
Oh, yeah.
And I used to live on there for quite some time. And I considered myself a Halloween engineer at one point. So it always started around
Once a Halloween engineer, always a Halloween engineer.
Dude, I was obsessed. like I used to go on like haunting forums and like look at haunting like conferences.
So whoa. What you're telling me is in another life, you could be hosting a Halloween podcast.
Oh, I mean,
that's kind of what I'm hearing here.
it might go further. I might have my own haunted house at this point. If thankfully we moved and I had
Spooky
to put that
pursuits.
dream away. But here's the thing. So I lived there for about 5 years. I'll roll it back to the first year, by the way. So if you've never seen Halloween on Hillcrest, it's this neighborhood inside of Louisville. They could just deck it out to the nines. It's just a neighborhood thing where every year, I think it's like 10,000 trick-or-treaters come through there. It's absolutely asinine.
It's the Whiskey Row of
Halloween.
It really is.
They have their own like radio stations.
Uh-huh.
Like
Yes, they actually one sets up in a yard on Halloween night and does that. I've been on the news multiple times. You can actually go and look at like old Wave 3 and WHAS videos of me like doing my Halloween thing. But anyway,
Like with vampire teeth.
like, hey
talking
guys,
to
I'm
John
kidding.
Belsky.
Yeah. I bought this house and the realtor goes, "Oh, you might have to take out a second loan for Halloween." And I was like, "Ha ha ha! What are you talking about?" She's like, "You don't know about the street that the house you just bought?" I'm like, "I have no idea." We bought the house and it came with some decorations already, and I go to the basement and it's me and my wife's first Halloween there, and she had kind of known about it before me. I had no idea. And we go down there. It's like 2 boxes of stuff. I go out and I hang it up all outside. We're done setting up like an hour and we're looking out and we're like,
Neighbors are like,
well, no, it's funny. We looked at it and we're like, this is cute. Like we're part of the fun here. And we go and take a walk up and down the block. We're like, oh shit, this is not going to do. So from like that point on,
the Joneses.
oh, I had a bad envy of it. And so I usually start in July every single year and start building stuff to go for October. And I just kept building and building and building. And to the point where I had pneumatic, like I had like a 35 gallon air compressor that would basically have skeletons that would like jump out at you. I had one on a stretching rack that would like pull itself apart. And all of this was connected to a bunch of controllers that I could all do it with my iPhone timed to music. And so you can go on YouTube right now and you can look at like Hillcrest Halloween and maybe even like I think Cruella was like, because I'm like big into EDM music too, was like one thing I timed it to. And so it was a light show in my front yard with all the Halloween decorations going off at once. So that was a huge part of my life, was just Halloween. And I was just enamored with it. So when I brought the skull here, it's because I used to go. Here's the trick to everything when you lived on Hillcrest: is you go to Walgreens and all these places the day after Halloween, and that's actually when you buy your candy, because you just buy all the all this stuff, blow pops and whatnot, because they last for a year. And when you have a couple thousand trick or treaters come through, you're like, I don't know you, I don't care. Take the piece of candy and get out of here.
There should be like SBA loans for that or something.
Like it's pretty intense.
So I've dropped off product at your current household, which does not strike me as a Halloween neighborhood.
Yeah, because he put all the Halloween equipment in the warehouse, in the Pursuit warehouse.
Oh, no. That probably explains why there was stuff in your house when the people who left were like, all right, we're fucking done with this shit. There's like a cursed monkey hand in there that you just like have to leave behind.
Oh man, I remember because we sold our house, and that's what I kind of had to give that dream up. But it was kind of this thing where I was really into Halloween, but the bourbon thing was kind of coming on. So as soon as I had to get rid of the Halloween thing, that's when the bourbon just kind of just really took control. I
no longer have this distraction.
So if you think I have an addictive personality, it's true. That's kind of what it comes down to.
No, that's awesome, man.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
And God bless Caulfield's. I'm sure that's like a not helping anything,
Oh,
having
dude.
a place like that in Louisville.
I used to go there all the time,
Yeah.
and I used to just get ideas. A
Yeah,
lot of
yeah,
time
yeah.
I was going in there like figuring out ideas because, like I said, I used to go to Walgreens because I mean, all this stuff. It's like it's kind of expensive for what it is. It's some plastic that comes out once a year and whatnot, and so I would go ham the day after and buy a bunch of stuff, or even like a week going into it. Like I go to Walgreens, I go to Halloween Express, like all those places that are like all the going out of business sale because
Oh,
we're
yeah.
only here for 3 weeks out of the year. And I'd go and just buy a bunch of stuff, but you would buy just regular skeletons. And I learned how to corpse skeletons. Like this is where I got into like
All
the
right, so
forums.
since the government is listening, we're just going to recontextualize this entire segment.
But it made them look like there was like skin like all hanging off them and stuff. So you take pantyhose and you put them on here and you take carpet glue and you glue it all. Well, you take pantyhose, you rip it, you take carpet glue and you put it on top of it. You let it dry for like 3 days and then you take stain and put it on there. And it just looks like there's just skin peeling away from it. Oh, and that's like all my front yard. There was probably like 15 of those. Like I loved it. It was just, and then my daughter was born and thankfully she wasn't old enough to recognize it.
Hey, there's something to be said. I grew up in the Highlands, like down by Atherton. They took it not as seriously as that, but people went all out. It's fun to have like a good Halloween when you're a kid. It's fun to be able to do that once a year.
Yeah.
So-
and I miss it too because it was like Halloween parties were the coolest.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh, yeah.
Oh man, you could throw those and people show up and it's like it's the only time as adults we get kind of like yeah, I know. It's
Yeah.
like you got to look at pop culture and like what are we gonna do this year?
I'm going to be Barbie.
There's gonna be lots of Barbie kids.
There's gonna be so much Barbie.
Oh, it's gonna be a lot.
You know, we're just under 3 months away from Halloween, which is insane. The other thing that we're just under 3 months away from is Louisville Beer Week, October 20th through the 27th. Kenny, we've been doing this thing the last few podcast episodes. So every beer week, we organize a collaboration celebration between breweries. So we pair breweries up randomly with each other, and we say, okay, here you go. If you haven't like talked to each other before, now you're being forced to, and otherwise,
It's like a bad school project.
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, exactly. And you're welcome. And so we've been announcing 2 of the breweries for one collaboration slowly over the last few weeks on these episodes. David, do you want to announce the next Beer Week collaboration that we have?
Absolutely. So a brewery that you've collaborated with before, Gallant Fox, this year is collaborating with one of Louisville's newest breweries, Kairos Brewing, out
Nice.
in Portland, Weston. They also share the same passion of starting small, growing, having all this endeavor and like movement towards a bigger like entity.
Both
So-
very community based too. I
Yeah.
would say like straight out of Clifton was one of the things that Gallant Fox grew up on and embraced that community. Kairos is all about their Portland neighborhood. Rich went to high school, whatever
Yeah,
he
it
said,
was-
middle school,
yeah,
like
he
right
went-
out there.
yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know. I'm excited for it. And they, like you said, similar ethos.
Yeah, they have the exact same like mentality of like let's start small and grow.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
for me that's small business and I love that and I will support that 100% of the time.
And they're both willing to get weird. Like they're both kind of creative,
yeah.
like off the wall. They can both brew on small systems. So we could see something very wild out of the Kairos Gallant Kairos. They'll come up with
They'll
with
come up
the
with a better
thing.
name than us
Yeah,
for
yeah.
sure.
Fox
No.
roast.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Fox
Just always
roast.
ask David.
Is
when you need
this
synergy.
Game of Thrones now? All of a sudden?
Yeah.
Fox roast. No, I'm looking forward to that. It's going to be really fun for them. The other thing that's coming up here in just 2 months, really is something that also makes sense for Louisville is Bourbon and Beyond. Now, Kenny, are you going to be at Bourbon and Beyond?
I will actually I'll be on a panel. at Bourbon
I
Beyond.
know. Tell us about that panel.
I don't know about it yet. All I know is Chris Blanford, who is the spirits of everything in Kroger. He sends me a text message. He's like, "Hey, can you be on a panel? Or we'd love to." Actually, he said, "Love to have you on one." I was like, "Sure, sign me up." And he goes, "What day would you prefer?" And I was like, "Man, I don't care. Just tell me." He's like, "God, I love you," because he's got to deal with all kinds of people. And
What's your rider?
yeah, he's got like schedules and whatnot. And I'm kind of like, I don't know, man. Just tell me when to be there. I'll show up.
You got to put it on like your work calendar.
I know.
Yeah, it's-
I should probably act like I'm more important than I really am, and just be like, "Well, actually, I'm gonna need it at this time." And
you have a speaking engagement.
Yeah, I'd be like, I need to make sure the sun is setting over there.
Yeah. I need this to be picture worthy.
Yeah.
But Bourbon Beyond, great music festival that we've been talking about the last couple weeks on the podcast. September 14th through 17th, going to be real fun. You can see folks like Brandy Carlisle, Billy Strings, The Killers, Black Crowes, David Brothers, Bruno Mars, Blondie. You can see them all. And then also Kenny Coleman.
And I'll be
Fuck
there.
all these other people. Just go see his panel.
That's what I'd say.
Yeah. That's
I'm
what
not
we
even a
wanna
music
see.
guy, but that lineup does excite me. I want to go see Spoon.
I can
That's
play
one
a
of my
mean
favorite bands.
triangle. So
I was about to say, what instrument can you play?
I can't even do a xylophone, but a triangle, I might have something
There you
there.
go. Yeah, you just need to have a good beat.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be fun. I think that it's kind of a special festival because not only do you get to see so many amazing performances and acts, but you also get to have some fun culinary and spirit-based experiences there. So September 14th through 17th. Kenny, thank you so much for joining us tonight. We really
Yeah.
appreciate you hanging
Well,
out
thank
on
you
a
all so
Wednesday
much.
night. Before we all head out, do you have anything that you want to plug or let people to know about?
Yeah, sure. I mean, thank you again for having me on. And just shout out to you all because I know what this is like of doing a podcast and going
Fucking awesome.
growing through this. Yeah, I mean, it's one thing that you have guests on and they talk and they go about their lives, but I know after this, like, this is when the work really starts, like, because this is the easy part. This is sitting down, it's talking, it's having a conversation, it's everything afterwards of post-production and marketing and everything like that. So thank you all for doing what you do, because it is hard, and make sure you support these guys and whatever they're doing too, because there is a lot of effort that goes into this, and we all would podcasting is fun, and it's never enough that it takes away from our day job to be able to say, like, we got a lot of ton money from podcasting. Like, nobody can say that really. So make sure you support these guys, what they're doing. But if you want to find out more about what I'm doing on the bourbon side, so go find Bourbon Pursuit wherever you find your podcast. We release 3 times a week, so we're on every single outlet. And not only do we release that, we hate free time so much, we started a second podcast called Behind the Pursuit, and it's all about building a bourbon brand. And
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm right now.
Yeah,
While my phone's filming us, but after that,
Yeah, it was one of those things that the Bourbon Pursuit was really made for helping people connect to brands.
can I be very upfront with you for 1 second?
Let's hear it.
I'm a beer dude, and like my bread and butter is making beer all day, but what also small business development and things like that are really what I'm super interested in. I love bourbon. I don't drink a ton of it. I can talk shit about it, but I don't know anything. That I'm subscribing tomorrow.
Oh, I
That's
appreciate
incredibly. I would love to listen to that story.
Yeah, it's like you learn about the highs, the lows, everything in between. We talk about random topics that just don't fit the mold of what would be Bourbon Pursuit, because that's more geared towards helping people connect with brands. But this is more about, it's not just about us, but we definitely talk about what it's like to work with distributors. What is it like to connect with fans? Like, how do you create experiential things that people can, really connect to? And there's a lot, it's mostly a brain dump when we get on there of trying to figure out, like, what is it that we think is we're going to work, what's not going to work. And we probably, again, talk about more than we probably should, but it's a way that you kind of get inside of our heads of what it's like to build a bourbon business. So yeah, you can check that out as well. And then of course our brand is pursuitspirits.com. Our flagships of Pursuit United are out there. We're in 9 different states. Don't ask me off the top of my head. I always forget one of them. But we are definitely all around in Kentucky, and your Coxes, your Evergreens, your Totals, Liquor Barn, everything like that as well. So make sure you go and check it out. And don't take my word for it. Go and check out all the awards we won. Pretty much everything on the table was won double gold at San Francisco. Even our bourbon was 2022 Bourbon of the Year by the John Barleycorn Award. So I feel very confident where we're going. And then make sure you keep in touch with us through all of our social channels. I know, I feel like I'm fucking rambling here. All our social channels through Bourbon Pursuit, as well as Pursuit Spirits, because we're going to drop more hints of everything we're doing, not only at our warehouse location that's in the Clifton neighborhood, but as well as when we get things up and running downtown on Whiskey Row as well.
I love that, man. Thank you. David, what do you got to plug?
Well, I can't wait for your haunted house to open.
That's what I should do on Whiskey Row.
You have to now.
It's like,
dude, Halloween at your all's place when you got that warehouse.
Oh, I'm telling
That's
you,
an activation right there.
I've there's actually a really cool, if you look at them on Instagram, I found them a long time ago. They're called Black Lagoon, and they do pop up Halloween bars. And I'm like, we got to get in contact with these people. So yeah, TBD. But,
Okay, all right.
yeah.
I had something in mind, but for you bringing this Bottle Logic beer reminded me of all the times I spent in a bottle shop exploring things that I was just curious about and things that I never knew anything about. And now these bottles kind of live and die on a shelf. So I'm gonna plug just your local bottle shop. Go in, grab something that you've never tried before. Like you said, it's a one-time experience, but it could be the best experience. So go in, have something new, give it a chance, and tell us if it sucks.
Yeah, there you go.
John, what do you got?
You be the refund? Is that what it's going to be? Yeah.
No, I don't have money.
I'm just gonna plug Aliens.
Okay.
Nice.
Turns out the government wants us to think. Okay. Hot takes, 20 seconds or less. Aliens that the government knows about, or no aliens? What do you guys think about all this stuff? Mueller?
Start over there.
I believe that aliens do exist in some form. I am unsure whether or not government entities really know anything about that.
You just kind of wrapped up my feelings, yeah.
I don't think so. And don't get me wrong, it sounds like it's far-fetched because it's like the universe is massive. Like there has to be.
Like the Carl Sagan thing.
But part of me is like, so I recently went on a trip to New Mexico, and people were like, "Oh yeah, you got to go to Roswell." I'm like, I did some Googling, and they have a alien museum there, and everything had 1 stars because it was like,
You're like, that's ironic in an alien
Yeah,
museum.
they go, a museum should have artifacts. This is just like
Yeah.
stories on a wall.
Yeah,
so
yeah, yeah.
I was like, I don't believe shit.
I do think they're out there. I believe in aliens, but I don't trust the government to tell me whether or not they're aliens. So
Yeah, they can't even make opening a distillery. Oh, it's easy. They're not going to be able to hide like all these UFO
So-
secrets for years. Project Bluebeam, guys, look it up. Project Bluebeam.
Honestly, I'll just say, like, if aliens existed, Trump would have said something because
He
he
can't
can't
not.
shut
He
up.
can't
Yeah.
not.
He would
Yeah.
just blurt it out accidentally someday. So I don't know. I don't think they really know anything about that.
Why are they
were
doing
like,
all
they were like,
this?
listen, we're not bringing you over here, Donald. This is we know how bad this is going to be if you say
Oh,
something.
we're supposed to go to New Mexico this week, but no, we're going to change your schedule.
So at this point, though, we have to recognize that either the aliens are here and the government knows about it, and they've been lying to us about it for all this time, or now that aliens are not here, no one knows anything, and this is just now a massive psyop coming from someone.
Space is massive and technology is weird. On my end, I'd like to plug Highwire. Yeah, we just got invited out there to Asheville for their 10th anniversary. Had a great time. It was a huge party. A lot of cool circuit stuff. I really want to learn like how to operate stilts now. I think that's something I could get into and maybe get
The
invited.
next COVID
Yeah.
project.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, the next COVID project. Get really into stilts. I got into like unicycling and juggling when I was little and plate spinning. So I feel like that's just the next step. 20 something years
Easy
later.
graduation step. There.
Yeah, exactly. But also, Highwire opened up a new speakeasy tiki bar in their
Yeah.
original South Slope Brewing location, and it is cool because I was like trying to picture like when they first announced, like I've been to that brewery before. It's very tiny. I don't understand it. The speakeasy is behind all the brewing equipment in a separate area, and it's some of the best like tiki experience I've ever had. David was there as well. Not just the drinks, but also the atmosphere. It was unmatched with anything I've ever had before. Like the lights would, like every 30 minutes, the lights would come down. They changed the climate of the room. There'd be like rain and storm sounds.
Ooh,
David,
okay.
think of like the Rainforest Cafe,
Yeah.
but you're getting like really hammered. Like it's really cool.
I'm picturing the vegetable aisle at Kroger, but like, you know.
and like if you get a cocktail that
So
has
misty.
a specialty like glass with it, they have to take your ID so you don't steal the glass or the
Ooh.
Yeah,
it's-
there was like a Jabba the Hutt. I saw a Marshmallow Man from like Ghostbusters. I mean, they really went out, and it was very thought through. It was intentional.
Yeah.
I appreciated all of it.
Yeah, it was fantastic. Would recommend if you're ever in Asheville, go pay them a visit at South Slope. And just a quick tease, we're going to be brewing a collab with Highwire in the next month or so. In Asheville, we'll be going back, and you'll be able to find that in both Louisville and Asheville pretty soon. Kenny, thank you so much again. For
Thank
coming
you,
and spending
Kenny.
some
This is
time.
delightful.
This
Yeah.
is fun, y'all. Thank you again.
And we're out.